Schiffer. Welcome to the Schiffer Report tonight. On tonight's edition, it's going to be an abbreviated show, probably only about 15 minutes, because there's a very important event happening in Washington, D.C., near the Capitol building this coming Thursday. That's this Thursday, October 27th, from 10 a.m. to 4 in the afternoon. A very important event at the National Press Club. There's going to be a lot of conservative leaders in D.C. during that time, doing not only a press conference at the National Press Club, but sort of a mini symposium with some conservative leaders. And the topic is going to be expose on George Soros, the main factor of President Barack Obama, and also a lot of inside information, stuff, some of it never revealed before, about Barack Obama's communist past, his communist associations, and proof that if anybody cares to see or listen or find out about, a lot of evidence that Barack Obama is not just a liberal Democrat, but a Marxist, Leninist, a communist. And that may sound harsh. That may sound like too strong of a term. You don't hear any of the Republican candidates running for office dare to say the truth about what Obama is. Well, that's what one of the things about this broadcast, the Schiffer Report, is I go that far. 3 years ago, when the president started running for president, I made it a point in all of my speeches and PowerPoint presentations to mention that he was a communist, in fact, not just a liberal Democrat, and then I'd lay out all the facts, like I'm going to do tonight for about 15 minutes here on the Schiffer Report. Now, one of the things I've gone over the past 6.5 months on the radio is all of the documentation from some best-selling authors out there who are in the know, experts on Barack Obama's past. And these authors include the historian Dr. Paul Kengor, a good friend of mine, Jack Cashill, Matthew Vadum, who's the best-selling author of the book that came out a few months ago called Subversives, Inc., and it's about the acorn apparatus that Obama set up to help get him into office. And what they do, basically, they're a bunch of thugs, communist or Nazi-style thugs, that intimidate people, break the law, use voter fraud, whatever, at their disposal to get Obama elected, and in this case, get him reelected. There's a book coming out that's very significant. I don't have it yet, but I've heard a lot about it. It's going to be unveiled at this National Press event this coming Thursday in Washington, D.C., this Thursday, October 27th. And the book is called Barack Obama and the Enemies Within. And it's at least 500-600 pages long. The book documents all about Obama's past from the 70s, 80s through the 90s, and his mentors, friends, and associates, 90% of which, and I'm looking at some of the evidence right now from different websites, proved that he was a communist. He hung around with leaders in the Communist Party USA, people who made constant trips to Moscow to meet with the communist leaders during the Cold War, and also to communist Cuba and Vietnam. Well, this book is going to be unveiled Thursday at this event. The author is the great conservative blogger Trevor Loudon. That's Trevor Loudon. Go to his website. Just Google search the name Trevor Loudon. This man has a fabulous amount of information, hundreds of pages worth on his blog site pertaining to Obama's communist past. This guy's got a team of researchers that are impeccable, that are first-rate researchers and investigators who have been digging up this dirt on Obama for at least 3 years. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this a little bit later here in about a few minutes, but the other thing that's going to take place at this press conference / symposium this Thursday, October 27th, at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., is Cliff Kincaid. Cliff Kincaid, he's the head of Accuracy in Media. I encourage you to check his website, aim.org. Well, Cliff Kincaid and his group, they're sponsoring this event this Thursday in D.C. And one of the things they're going to bring out is, for hours, they're going to expose the agenda and radical policies and beliefs of George Soros, the multi-billionaire philanthropist who has been wrecking havoc in this country, promoting and financing over 150 well-financed organizations with a lot of clout and input, groups that are pro-abortion, promoting gay marriage, anti-Israel, taxes, the whole gamut of the liberal agenda, the whole agenda that the liberals are pushing and shoving down our throats. It's all being financed and propagated, put together by George Soros. He has a myriad of different organizations dealing with foreign policy and domestic politics, and that's one of the other things that's going to be exposed this Thursday at the Accuracy in Media press conference. Check out the websites again, AIM.org and USASurvival.org. WorldNet Daily has been covering this information. There's another book coming out soon. I'm going to have the author on the Schiffer Report within 2-3 weeks. The author is best-selling author Aaron Klein. He writes and works for WorldNet Daily. Check out their website, worldnetdaily.com. Aaron Klein has a new book coming out in a week called Red Army. And it's about, again, the same topic, the communists that are surrounding Obama and their agenda to literally destroy America. Let me give you an example of how frightening this information is. This is from a paper that I promoted before. It's about 35 pages in length. It's put together by Cliff Kincaid, the president of Accuracy in Media and America's Survival. It's called Communism in Chicago and the Obama Connection. Now, here's something I've never referred to on the air from this report, but just listen. This is how damning this information is. This is the type of stuff that's going to be in Trevor Loudon's book when it is unveiled to the public this Thursday. And I am coming back from Washington, D.C., fully loaded with new information, knowledge, and wisdom on how evil this president and this agenda is. Well, one of Obama's biggest backers was a Dr. Quentin Young. Dr. Quentin Young, a very influential doctor, a Marxist-Leninist, a communist, a member of the Communist Party USA. He was one of the ones that helped kick off Obama's career, his political career, in the 1990s in the living room of communist underground leader Bill Ayers and his wife Bernadine Dorn. At their house, sometime in the mid-90s, Dr. Quentin Young was there. So was Tom Hayden and some other major communist leaders. And they were there to basically coronate Obama as the next political leader from Chicago, Illinois. And they, from this moment on, from that night at the Ayers Dorn house, with Dr. Quentin Young's participation, Obama started skyrocketing from running from state senator and making it to U.S. Senate to the presidency of the United States. Now listen, this is some of the damning information about Young. And if you don't think this is bad, or that this is frightening, or that this is relevant, then you're just somebody out there, folks, who just does not care. Dr. Quentin Young, this is a quote from this report, Dr. Quentin Young's participation in the coronation of Obama at the Ayers Dorn house was no accident. An FBI report on the communist weather underground described Dr. Quentin Young, again, a mentor and friend of Obama, as a Chicago physician and avowed communist radical who knew communist Bernadine Dorn and other weathermen both as doctor and friend. Dr. Quentin Young met with Bernadine Dorn after her return from Havana, Cuba, where she met many times with communist Vietnamese officials. Yes, meeting with communist Vietnamese officials in Cuba. Dr. Young is quoted as saying about her, keep in mind both of these are friends and associates of Obama, Bernadine went down there already influenced by communist Cuba and in a state of romantic anticipation. She was at the top of her thermometer going down. I talked to her, sort of debriefed her when she came back. There is no doubt that Bernadine's views were buttressed by what she saw and heard down there in Cuba. The report, this FBI report, went on to say that other weathermen, again, other friends of Obama, were similarly keyed up, said that Dr. Young, who is proud that 2 of his children have journeyed to communist Cuba to cut cane and pick oranges. This is sickening, folks. These are people with great influence and mentorship over Obama, a young Obama in the 1990s. people who were proud that their children journeyed to communist Cuba to cut cane and pick oranges. Tom Hayden, another radical communist leader, who at one time had a romantic fling with Jane Fonda. Well, Tom Hayden, another major figure in the SDS, it's another communist front group from the 60s and 70s, is today one of four principal initiators of the Progressives for Obama movement. In 1970, the U.S. House of Representatives House Committee on Internal Security reproduced a June 4, 1968 letter that Tom Hayden had sent to a North Vietnam communist official by the name of Colonel Lau, informing him that Mr. Robert Greenblatt was the coordinator of the national mobilization to end the war in Vietnam, and that he works closely with myself and Dave Dellinger, and has just returned from Hanoi. The letter from Hayden was signed, "Good Fortune Victory to the Communist." In the words of the chairman of this committee at the time, Representative or Congressman Richard Eichord, this report identified how this group, the New Mobilization Committee, had operated from its inception with significant domestic and international communist support. Now, I don't have time to go on and on, but this is just a small sampling of two or three of the top supporters of Obama who ended up running Progressives for Obama, who were not just liberal Democrats, not just communist, avowed Marxist-Leninists, but had a working relationship, ongoing working relationship with the communists in Cuba and the communists in communist Vietnam. This, folks, should be enough to frighten you to death. And yet many people choose to ignore this. Well, hopefully when the book comes out, Trevor Loudon's book, is unveiled this Thursday in Washington, D.C., and I will be there at this event, this Accuracy in Media event. Hopefully I come back and more people will get this book. I hope that this book has an effect on Obama, a negative effect on Obama, the way Unfit for Command did to John Kerry, bringing John Kerry's presidential ambition to a screeching halt. And that's just some of the information that I have that you can find out on usasurvival.org and accuracyinmedia.org. Now, another thing here. A lot of people are asking, especially conservatives, why is the U.S. military now engaged in Uganda? Why is Obama sent hundreds of troops to Uganda and maybe even plans to go to other African countries? Well, get a load of this. Multi-billionaire philanthropist, good friend of Obama, supporter of Obama, multi-billionaire George Soros, his fingerprints are all over the U.S. military mission in Uganda. It turns out that George Soros sits on the executive board of a group called the Crisis Management Organization that basically recently recommended the U.S. deploy a military team to Uganda to help with operations and run intelligence operations. Well, why would Soros ask this? Well, it turns out that George Soros maintains close ties to oil interests in Uganda. George Soros' organization has been leading efforts purportedly to facilitate more transparency in Uganda's oil industry, while he's protecting his vital oil and other business interests in Uganda. So you have a case here where the President of the United States, Barack Hussein Obama, is using our military as errand boys for his major supporter, multi-billionaire socialist George Soros. Now, if this was reported on by the major media, I think hellfire would come down on this administration. The public outcry, you would think, would be massive. But no, the media won't touch this, because the media, in large part, is controlled by George Soros, and I'm talking about the liberal media. And by the way, Fox News is having a difficult time. Rupert Murdoch, who runs Fox News, he is being viciously smeared and attacked by George Soros. So George Soros is going after Fox News and their owner and manager, and this man is a dangerous socialist that needs to be stopped. Well, that's part of this reason for this conference in D.C. this coming Thursday, October 27th. So Soros himself has been tied to the oil and other interests in Uganda, so he convinces President Obama to send our military down there. We have no vital U.S. interest there. This is scandalous. This is, in my opinion, an impeachable offense. but nobody's talking about it except some conservative groups like Accuracy in Media and WorldNet Daily, worldnetdaily.com. One of the other things is the Soros's Open Society Institution runs numerous offices in Uganda, and it maintains a country manager in Uganda, as well as Open Society initiatives in East Africa, which supports work in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. One of the there's some other members of this group that Obama is a part of, and here's another one. This group, the ICG, their executive board includes Samuel Berger. That was Bill Clinton's former national security advisor, who was scandal-ridden, remember, and I could go into detail for an hour on his scandals. George Mitchell, former U.S. Senate Majority Leader, and also a communist from Spain, a communist activist who used to be NATO's Secretary General. His name is Javier Solana. This man is bad news. And Jimmy Carter's national security advisor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, is the senior advisor for this Soros group. So we're talking about people who are radicals, who are communists, who are socialists, who are basically not only controlling our domestic policy, influencing Obama to the hilt, but they're also behind the U.S. military involvement in Uganda. So it's just the tip of the iceberg, folks. And on top of that, finally, I'll conclude that Friday I'm going to find out and bring back to the Schiffer Report here on my radio broadcast and on the YouTube network, thanks to Larry Boltz. Going to have more proof that all of these Wall Street protests, this so-called Occupy Wall Street and Occupy different cities in the U.S., this movement is no spontaneous uprising that George Soros and George Soros's Tides Foundation and the Russian government, the former KGB, the FSB, and even communist North Korea are behind these protests. So this is not a grassroots, pro-America, pro-freedom-loving grassroots movement like the Tea Party movement. No, this is a dangerous communist-instigated uprising. It's not spontaneous at all. Folks, we are seeing the beginnings of a communist takeover in our country, and we had better wake up very quickly. You've been listening to the Schiffer Report. Thanks for tuning in today. If you'd like more information, feel free to contact me anytime. My email address is schifferreport@hotmail.com. That's Schiffer Report, spelled S-C-H-I-F-F-E-R, schifferreport@hotmail.com, or you can feel free to call me anytime on my cell. Here in Canton, Ohio, my cell phone number is 216-276-8257. Again, that's 216-276-8257. Thanks for listening. Have a great evening.